Former Democratic Senator, now independent, and soon to be out of Congress Senator Joe Manchin was doing an interview with CNN, and he said it would be easier for Joe Biden's critics to accept the pardon of Hunter Biden if at the same time he had went ahead and pardoned Donald Trump for all of his crimes too. Well, ain't that convenient? Joe Manchin, the man who held up a lot of what Joe Biden wanted to do because he kept saying, well, I can't run on that to get reelected. I've got to go back to my voters and tell them, this, or I got to tell them that. So I can't vote with the Democrats. And then chose not to run for reelection anyway, costing us a seat in West Virginia. And then decides to become an independent because he decides he might try to run for the no labels ticket for president to be a spoiler candidate against Joe Biden, and that all goes away when Joe Biden steps out of the race. But now he comes out and says, well, it'd be easier for Joe Biden's critics to accept the pardon of Hunter if he pardoned Donald Trump for his crimes. Give me a break. They're not even close to the same thing. Hunter Biden was charged after a 4-year investigation that was started because of Donald Trump. He was charged with lying on a gun form and 2 tax charges for not filing and paying his taxes promptly or whatever, even though the taxes eventually got filed and the back balances plus penalties and interest were paid. Most people wouldn't have even been up on these charges, not to mention there was a plea deal in place that would have been a misdemeanor and it would have been over and done with, but congressional Republicans put pressure on the special counsel to not accept that weak of a plea deal and go harder after Hunter Biden. But sure, Joe Manchin, well, let's compare the two and say it's the same thing as mishandling classified information, keeping it for your personal use, storing it in a bathroom at Mar-a-Lago, keeping it in a ballroom at Mar-a-Lago, in unsecure locations, refusing to turn it back over when asked, defying search warrants, hiding it, moving stuff around to make sure that when they come in to look for it, it's not there. Sure, that's all the same thing. Not to mention, you have your January 6th, where he incited a riot that invaded the Capitol that you were in at that day when it happened, in an effort to overturn an election that Donald Trump lost and to potentially hang the Vice President of the United States. Sure, Joe Biden should have pardoned him. Give me a break. No. And this goes back to Gerald Ford pardoning Nixon. Ford shouldn't have pardoned Nixon either. They said it was for the good of the country to move on. Well, all that just meant was when the next person, in this case Trump, comes along, he can do even worse things, and then for the good of the country, we're supposed to pardon him and move on and act like it was no big deal and all is forgiven. Get over yourself, Joe Manchin. You're not that important, and you're not right on this. Joe Biden did the right thing by pardoning Hunter Biden, and if you talk about his critics would have had a field day if he would have pardoned Donald Trump.